Have you ever met someone who doesn't have social media at all? No Instagram, no TikTok, no online profile you can look up. In a world where almost everyone leaves a digital trace, choosing to remain invisible can feel unusual, almost uncomfortable. At first, you might wonder why someone would do that. Are they disconnected? Are they hiding? Are they missing out? But when you spend time with them, you often notice something subtle. They seem calmer, more grounded, less pulled in different directions, not superior, not detached from reality, just different. And psychology offers a compelling explanation for why that difference exists. Because living without social media doesn't just change how you communicate, it slowly reshapes how your mind works. Most people underestimate how powerful digital environments are. They don't just deliver information, they train attention, they train emotion, they train identity. Every scroll teaches the brain what matters. Every notification teaches the brain what deserves urgency. Every comparison teaches the brain how to measure itself. People without social media are removed from this constant training, and over time, their psychological patterns diverge. Let's start with attention. Social media fragments attention into small, reactive units. You're not choosing where to focus. You're responding. Images, opinions, faces, emotions flash by faster than the mind can integrate. The brain adapts by scanning, not settling. People without social media don't rehearse this pattern daily. Their attention stays longer with one experience. A conversation, a book, a task, a thought. Psychologically, this builds attentional endurance, the ability to remain present without immediately seeking stimulation. This matters more than it sounds, because attention is not neutral. Where attention goes, emotion follows. And where emotion goes, meaning forms. When attention is constantly hijacked, life feels scattered. When attention is stable, experience feels coherent. People without social media often experience time differently. Moments feel longer. Days feel fuller. Not because more happens, but because less is missed. This leads to the next difference. Identity. Social media encourages you to see yourself from the outside. You become both the person living the moment and the observer evaluating it. How does this look? How will this be received? Is this worth sharing? Even offline, that external lens stays active. People without social media don't strengthen this habit. They don't constantly watch themselves being themselves. They experience life from the inside out. Psychologically, this creates a more internally regulated identity. Their sense of self depends less on visibility, less on approval, less on reaction. This doesn't mean they don't care what others think. It means their self-worth isn't updated in real time by feedback loops. They don't wake up to silent evaluations. They don't interpret engagement as meaning. Over time, the nervous system learns something powerful. I exist without being observed. I am real without being confirmed. This produces a quiet stability, not confidence that seeks attention, confidence that doesn't need it. Another difference emerges in emotional regulation. Social media amplifies emotion. Outrage travels faster than calm. Envy travels faster than contentment. Idealized images travel faster than reality. Constant exposure to this conditions emotional volatility. People without social media experience fewer emotional spikes that are disconnected from their own lives. Their emotions are more often linked to direct experience. What actually happened? What was actually said? What they actually felt? This reduces background anxiety, that vague sense of restlessness with no clear cause. It also reduces comparison, because comparison requires constant exposure. Remove the exposure and comparison weakens naturally. This doesn't eliminate insecurity, but it prevents insecurity from being endlessly reinforced. Now let's look deeper at the level of the brain. Social media is built on variable reward schedules. You don't know what the next scroll will bring. Sometimes it's validation, sometimes it's novelty, sometimes it's nothing. That unpredictability keeps dopamine circuits engaged. Over time, the brain adapts. Baseline sensitivity drops. Ordinary moments feel flat. People without social media avoid this conditioning. Their dopamine system responds more to slower rewards. Progress instead of praise, depth instead of novelty, presence instead of stimulation. This makes boredom tolerable again. And boredom is essential. Boredom is where creativity begins. It's where thoughts connect, where emotions complete their cycle. People without social media spend more time in this state without trying to escape it. They don't immediately label boredom as something to fix. This allows the mind to reorganize itself. Another consequence appears in motivation. Many people believe they lack discipline, but often they are simply overstimulated. When dopamine is constantly spiked, motivation collapses afterward. People without social media experience fewer artificial highs. Their motivation is quieter but steadier. They don't feel constantly driven, but they don't feel constantly exhausted either. They work in longer arcs. This also affects how they relate to others. Without social media, relationships are less performative. There is no audience, no pressure to present a curated version of connection. Interactions happen privately or not at all. This naturally filters relationships. What remains is often more intentional. People without social media are usually comfortable with smaller social circles. Not because they dislike people, but because they don't confuse visibility with intimacy. They invest energy where there is mutual presence, not public affirmation. And there is one more difference that often goes unnoticed. People without social media tend to have a different relationship with silence. Silence doesn't feel empty to them. It feels neutral. There is no immediate urge to fill every pause. This allows thoughts to finish, feelings to settle, decisions to mature. Many insights don't arrive loudly. They arrive slowly when the mind isn't being interrupted. Without constant input, intuition becomes clearer. Not mystical intuition, but practical self-awareness. You notice when something feels right. You notice when something feels off. This makes decision-making calmer, less rushed, less reactive. Life becomes less about keeping up and more about choosing deliberately. Now here's an important reframe. This isn't about being anti-technology. It's about environment. Human psychology adapts to what surrounds it. Change the environment, and behavior changes without force. People without social media didn't necessarily choose discipline. They chose an environment that demands less self-control. Remove the trigger, and the nervous system recalibrates. What society often labels as antisocial, strange, or outdated is sometimes something else entirely. Psychological autonomy, the ability to decide where attention goes, the ability to experience life without narrating it, the ability to exist without constant reflection. Here's the deeper truth. Social media doesn't just consume time, it shapes perception. It trains the mind to evaluate, compare, and perform. Living without it allows a different psychological structure to develop. One based on presence instead of projection, depth instead of display, internal reference instead of external signal. This doesn't mean everyone should delete everything, but it does mean awareness matters because every platform you use is shaping you whether you notice it or not. People without social media aren't escaping reality. They are experiencing it with fewer filters, and in a world full of noise that can look rare. Clarity, stillness, a mind that belongs more to itself. So maybe the real question isn't, should you quit? Maybe it's simpler. How much of your attention are you willing to protect? Because attention isn't just focus, it's how you experience your life.